The first properly documented settlers from the Indian subcontinent to Canada came over in the early 20th century, and a very significant portion of these settlers were Sikh men from the Punjab region of what was then known as the British Raj. Many were veterans from the British Army who wanted a new life away from home. This was due to the pensions for veterans in India being inadequate, and upon return from service, inhabitants had found their homes seized by debtors and moneylenders. Canada, at the time, was concerned about Northern American expansion, so they wanted to increase the population in the West by encouraging immigration to Canada. These Punjabi settlers became especially more appealing to Canada when they saw that a large amount of them had prior military experience. The differences between these immigrants and the population already living there gave rise to racism towards the new settlers, and when the ships carrying these immigrants began to arrive, the Indians soon realized that Canada was not as accepting towards them as they had been led to expect. These men were welcomed with racism and prejudice, despite the officers' prestigious past and ability to speak English. These same men were also paid much less than what a white man would be paid for the same work. Many went back, choosing harsh conditions over racially based harassment in Canada. As time progressed, and especially after the Second World War, many new immigrants arrived on the shores of North America every year. Among them, a great many from the Indian subcontinent. In India, one is told of a better life abroad, and Canada is a country portrayed as a land of opportunity. In the early 1980s, my grandmother's cousin and her husband arrived in Los Angeles to settle down and make a life for themselves. While achieving the American dream and becoming owners of a successful business, they still had to go through many trials and tribulations, including, but not limited to, mockery based on their accent and general prejudice based on their country of origin. This didn't lessen for years, and they say now that their discontent with these negative experiences fueled their drive to become successful in America. When talking to them now, I have learned that surprisingly, they still witness racism such as that. Albeit these instances are rare, they show the difference between their experiences in the United States and my family's experiences when coming to Canada. I arrived to Canada with my parents in 2005 and have just completed 12 years into the country. My parents first entertained the idea of leaving India in the year 2000 after a major armed conflict had just occurred between India and Pakistan, leaving over 1,000 dead and even more injured. The fighting had taken place just 12 hours away, and this consolidated my parents' feeling that the country wasn't stable enough, economically or geopolitically, to safely raise a child. As time went on, and the fact that we had relatives in Toronto who had moved years prior, my parents decided to leave their country for Canada with me in tow. It took nearly 3 years for the immigration papers to finalize, and my parents and I finally left our home country on March 17, 2005. My parents experienced no racial prejudice upon arrival, and to date, I can recall very few racist experiences. We were able to easily adopt Canadian culture as part of our own, and in my opinion, the experience we have had resembled what was expected by those Punjabi settlers 100 years prior. One they sadly never got. My name is Yuvraj Walia, and I am an Indian immigrant. I live in Toronto, Canada, and absolutely love history and learning about the past. I am an avid reader who enjoys non-fiction and fiction alike, leaning towards fantasy and science fiction. I am passionate about travel and technology and want to travel the world when I get older. In my off time, I play video games with my friends and shoot trap with my father. My plans for the future are to get a degree in computer engineering and do my postgraduate in law. I think that involving technology in what I do is going to be a large priority for me, and I also want to continue shooting trap competitively.